everyone. So my name is Melinda Bonny, in case you don't know who I am, and I just really wanted to share my ectopic pregnancy story. I think one for myself, just so I can, I mean, you don't want to remember the bad things in your life, but I do. I want to remember this moment and what happened. And also I feel like when I knew something was going wrong in my body, I went to the internet for answers, and I really feel like hearing other people's stories helped me to be able to find this. So anyway, so I guess to start, we had been trying to conceive for a while, and last month was, well, I guess, so starting in May of 2019, we tried to have a baby. And I feel like I'm a pretty in tune with my body kind of person. I usually know what's happening, and I've been lucky to usually be pretty normal cycles. Also, this is definitely going to be a TMI video, so if you don't want to know the details, then this is not a video for you. And if you're family and don't want to know about my private life, you should stop watching this. But anyway, so I knew when I had ovulated, and we tried, and then I was about to start my period, took a bunch of pregnancy tests, and they were not positive. So I just kind of chalked it up to another month that didn't work for us, and moved on. I started my period. I bled like a normal period. It wasn't light, it wasn't implantation bleeding, it was definitely a period. And so then 2 days after that, I started taking, right after my period stopped, I started taking ovulation tests. Usually I ovulate pretty close to after I finish menstruating. And so I was taking tests, and they were getting darker, and they were getting darker. And 2 days after my period, I started bleeding again, which is really, really uncommon for me. I never have spotted in my whole life between periods, and I've always had almost exactly a 27, 28 day cycle. So I just knew that something was off, and I don't know why, but I just had this feeling that I should take a pregnancy test. And I did, and it was positive. And my first instinct was that it was not a real test. I had been using the really cheap test, and I kind of thought it was maybe an evaporation line. I've had them before, and so I took another one, and it was positive, and I took another one, it was positive, and 6 tests later and a few fancy tests, they were all positive. And I was just kind of freaking out, trying to do the math and anatomy, physiology in my head. I know that you can't get pregnant without ovulating, and I'm 99.9% confident that I only ovulate once in a cycle, and I knew when that had been, and that was in the middle of May. And so I knew that there was no way I could have ovulated during my period, and it had really only been about 7 days since my period. I also knew that it wasn't implantation bleeding. It was just too heavy compared to what everyone said implantation can be. There's no way it was that. So I was so stressed. I really was in denial. I didn't believe the test, and of course I was excited because we've been trying, and I cried in my bathroom, but I couldn't even tell my husband that night because I was just so stressed out. So I jumped onto the forum from the app that I was using, and I made a message that just said, can you ovulate while you're on your period? And I posted a picture of my chart that I'd been doing. I'd been tracking my temperatures every single morning. Ow. Sorry, my dog is biting on my feet. But I've been tracking my temperatures, and my temperature dropped like a normal temperature would. And anyway, so I posted my chart and just said, I am definitely pregnant. Has anybody ever had this happen to you? It's just really odd. And I had 6 or 7 people respond who all said, this is what my chart looked like when I had an ectopic pregnancy. So of course, you know, like I just start thinking like the worst, and I'm terrified, right? Because like to have so many people say that their chart matches my chart and that like it didn't work out for them is pretty devastating, especially when you've been trying so hard to have a baby. Anyway, so I wake up the next morning and I call my OBGYN office like right away, and I am crying, and I tell them like, I think I have an ectopic pregnancy, like, can I come in? And they, like, I can't say they laughed at me, but they kind of laughed at me, and they were like, you're probably just really early in your pregnancy, like there's probably nothing to worry about, like if you had an ectopic pregnancy, like you would know for sure. Like people that have ectopic pregnancies are in tons of pain, like they have fevers, and like you would know. So like you probably don't. But I just kept pushing, and I kept saying like, I know something is wrong with me, like this is not normal. And he kept saying like, well, people bleed like when they implant, like this is probably just really early, but we'll have you take an HCG test just to confirm the pregnancy, and then we'll go from there. So I work at the hospital in our cancer center, and so I was able to just go get my labs drawn right then. And about an hour or two later, I got the results, and my HCG was only at 91. And so that's pretty on the low scale of HCG. And if I can find like a little range box or something, I'll put it on the screen. But so it was a 91. They called me back, and they were like, you're probably just barely pregnant. And I kept telling them like, no, like I had a period last week, but I'm pretty sure like I'm pregnant from the cycle before, which would make me like, I don't know, at least 4 weeks right now. And I don't know. So anyway, I just still felt stressed, and finally they were like, okay, fine, come in for an ultrasound. You could tell they were really skeptical and thought I was just this kind of crazy person. So I went in, and I'm just scared, and they did a internal ultrasound, and they're looking, and they don't find anything, which like makes me feel dumb. So they're telling me like, they're just like, everything looks normal in here, like you look normal, like, but they couldn't find anything. And we knew that I was for sure pregnant because of my HCG levels, and that's why they just kept saying, you're probably just barely pregnant, it's not going to show up for a while. They could see like one really big cyst in my right ovary, but she just said, big cysts are normal. She says, everyone thinks cysts are bad. Not all cysts are bad. Cysts are normal in your body as long as they don't go crazy. And she said that this ovary looked like it had probably been the ovary or the cyst that had released my egg, and now it was releasing hormones, and it was normal for it to be big, so don't be worried about it. And so she sent me home. They wanted me to do more HCG testing every other day. So I'm sure a lot of people watching this know, but your HCG levels are supposed to double every other day. So every 48 hours, they're supposed to increase at least by 100%. So I went in 2 days later and tested, and they only went up to 125, which is only like a 35% increase, which is a sign of ectopic pregnancy. So I'm freaking out, and they keep saying, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal. Went in 2 days later, got another HCG test, and that one did double. It was like 256 or something, so it had just a little over doubled, and they took that as like a good sign. They said, you're totally fine, totally normal, like your body just was really slow at the start, and just kind of sent me on my way. I kept telling them I just felt like something was off, so they agreed to do another ultrasound 2 weeks later, which was scheduled for July 2nd, 2019. So I just continued, and about a week later, I started having just like crazy cramping. Like it was like more intense than like a period cramp. Like period cramps for me are just kind of consistent, like a throbbing or like a like a muscle cramp, right? But it's like consistent throughout like the period. And this was like a stabbing pain. Like every once in a while, someone just like stabbed my gut. And I start looking, you know, to the internet, and I keep saying like, is cramping normal in early pregnancy? And then all these women are like, oh yeah, I had tons of cramping in early pregnancy. And, but I knew something was wrong. And anyway, the next day I called my OBGYN. I said, I'm having like a lot of pain. They're like, well, is it bad enough to go to the ER? And I was like, well, no, like probably not. Like, maybe I just have like a higher pain tolerance, or I don't go to the ER unless I am like dying. And so, I just didn't go to the ER. And so they had me do another HCG test, and this test was in the 1600s. So, you know, doing the math from all the days that I had missed in that week, it should have been a lot higher than that. It only had raised about an average of 60% instead of 100%. So, of course, I'm like worried again, and she just had this, the MA just had this attitude of, you're fine. Like, I felt like she just wanted me to stop calling the office. I just felt silly for even being worried. And anyway, so we tried to, you know, stay positive, especially my husband. He's always like, just think happy thoughts. And I do believe the power of positive thinking, but I also know that I didn't want to let myself get like too happy, because like I knew emotionally I wouldn't be able to handle it if I was like fully like, this is good. Like, until I could see the baby growing in the right spot, I just didn't want to be fully committed. And we didn't really want to tell anybody that we were expecting, but my company was having this big lagoon day, and lagoon is like an amusement park in our state, and I knew I couldn't ride any of the rides. So the weekend of the trip, we told our family that we were expecting, and we just kind of like put a disclaimer on it, like, we're expecting and it's happy, but just so you know, like, it's possible that like it's not gonna last. And it was like a happy, sad moment. Anyway, so we went to Lagoon. I didn't ride any of the rides. I just kind of like hung out with my family. And on the next Tuesday, we went in for our second appointment, and I'm so glad my husband was able to come with me. But we did the scan, and like the first thing that shows up is my ovary, and it's like huge. It was like three or four times the size that it was in our first scan. And there were cysts everywhere, like huge cysts. She just was like, she goes, what medicines are you taking? And I had not taken a single medicine of any kind. I mean, just vitamins for the last like 4 weeks. So I told her, like, I have not taken anything. She's like, well, this is consistent with someone that's taking medicine to make them ovulate. Okay, so my OB just called me in the middle of this video, so there's gonna be a weird gap. But anyway, she just said, you know, this medication is what people would take to try to get pregnant, and I've never seen anything look like this on its own. So she's like looking around. She's like, well, I don't see a pregnancy in here. But like, I really can't see much because these cysts are so big. She's just like moving around. She's like, I'm just going to get measurements so that, you know, the doctor has more information when he comes in. And then, I don't know, like all at once, then like, it was just there. And, like you could see the baby, and it was like hiding behind one of these cysts, and like I could tell its heart was beating, and it looked like a lot farther along than like the few weeks that they had told me I would have been. I think like that of this whole experience was for sure the hardest for me, was seeing it on the screen and just like knowing that that's what it was before they told me. You know, they took a couple heartbeats and of the baby, and she said that's definitely in the wrong spot, and she said I'll be back. So my doctor comes in, and he kind of like tells me, like, we can't even tell where this is because your sister's so big, it's hard for us to tell if it's in a tube, if it's in your ovary, or like where it is. And it's just kind of weird because like I've never had surgery before. I've never had like any like problems that I knew of, and so they don't really know like why it happened. It just happened. So he tells me that because there's a heartbeat, they can't just give me methotrexate, that I have to go in for an emergency surgery. And it just was like a lot to take in, you know. Simona and I had, you know, we knew that this was like a possibility the whole time, but we couldn't help but like be excited. We like bought baby clothes together, and you know, I just like every night he would like talk to our baby, and so like to know that we were about to lose him, I call him a him, I don't even know, but it just was a really emotional time for us. So I changed, and they told us to go straight to the hospital, and I just kept thinking of like all these things, like I can't go to the hospital right now, like we run an Airbnb in our basement, and I need to go home and clean the room because we have people checking in, and I need to do laundry, and I don't know, like I'm out of contacts, like I can't go to the hospital without contacts. And so, you know, anyway, so we go home, and I start running errands, like buying contacts and trying to go to the store and buy like a few things before I go to the hospital. So we go home, I pack like a bag, put comfy clothes on, I call my work and tell them that I won't be in, and we head over to the hospital. It was stressful because like a day or two before I had gotten this email from my benefit center saying like, you haven't added any beneficiaries to your, you know, to your life insurance and things. And of course, like those are the things you start to think about like as you're going into surgery. So 15 minutes before surgery, I'm like running to our HR department at the hospital, and I'm thankful that I work at the hospital, but run down, like add my husband to my benefits, and then went to surgery. So I think like my biggest worries were that they would have to remove everything. Like I've wanted kids my whole life, and so this was like really difficult for me to like even think that it would be like not an option at all. That was for sure my biggest worry, and I just feel like my doctor, he just really like stepped it up, and he was there for me, and he was very compassionate and understanding, and just really like walked me through everything. And so they took me back, and I woke up, and it was for sure the worst pain that I've ever been in my whole life. They just did like a laparoscopic surgery, but I have like 4 incisions, and the one on my right had to be pretty big because of how big everything was that they were taking out. They removed part of my tube, not all of it, but it doesn't function anymore, so the whole right side doesn't have a tube. That works. They think that I'll still be able to have kids in the future. So it's been exactly a week since my surgery. It still hurts. It's definitely getting better. Coughing and sneezing is the worst, and I just like wish this on nobody. Like even my worst enemy, I hope it never happens to them. Which I don't really have a worst enemy, but if I did, I wouldn't wish it on them. It's just been really hard, like emotionally and physically, to deal with. Anyway, my advice to anybody that is going through something similar is I would just say be like your own advocate. Because if I had not advocated for myself and really pushed my doctors to do more testing and more scans, they would have scheduled my first appointment for back in August, which would have made me almost 3.5 months pregnant. 3.5 months pregnant, and it would have for sure ruptured before that appointment, and I could have bled internally, like I could have died. I feel really lucky that we caught it when we caught it. They said the baby was about 6 or 7 weeks at measuring size. But I was about 8 weeks, date-wise. Anyway, I would just say, like, listen to your instincts, listen to your gut. I would say not all ectopic pregnancies are this crazy painful experience. Like, I mean, recovery is painful, but like the actual pregnancy part itself wasn't that bad for me. It just felt like really bad cramps. So I would just say, like, listen to your intuition. Like, I really feel like your body will tell you what's going on if you listen, and don't let people make you think you're crazy, because it's better for you to be a crazy person and get these extra scans and have everything be fine than to just be too scared to say it and then have something worse happen. I'm hopeful for the future, and this whole week, like, I've really been given a lot of time to think, and I feel like in my community it's really popular for people to say that God gives us trials so that we can grow from them. And I just really disagree with that. I don't think God gives us trials. I don't think he said, I'm gonna make Melinda have this ectopic pregnancy to help her grow. I think that he just lets bad things happen sometimes. I'm so sorry, but I do. I think God lets bad things happen to us. He lets our loved ones die. Bad things happen to good people, and it's just how life is, and he lets it happen, and we can choose to, like, make that, let it, like, to help us grow, or we can, like, let it destroy us. So we just have to choose that better path, but he's, like, there to help us through it. And so that's my spiritual message for the day, is that we are not alone, and there is someone there who knows what we're going through. My husband has been so supportive. I don't know how I could have gone through this without him, and my family, they've been awesome. My parents drove down when they found out I was going in for surgery, and they helped a lot. And my siblings and everybody has just really stepped in, but no one really knows, like, what's happening in my mind and in my heart, except for my Savior. And I know that he's there to, like, comfort me, because he knows how I feel. And I don't know, I know not everyone believes, but that has just really helped me through this, to know that it's gonna be okay. Life goes on, and it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to grieve, and it's okay to hurt, but just to also know that, like, I have a decision to, like, move forward with my life, and I can, just try to make each day a little bit better. So I wish super luck to everybody out there that is trying to conceive and have a baby. And if you think you are having an ectopic pregnancy, please go to your doctor. Like, do not wait. It really is a life-threatening condition. I am not a doctor. I cannot diagnose you. Like, my problems are not the same for everybody that has an ectopic pregnancy. So just, take care of yourself. Make sure you're, just being proactive. So hopefully the next video I have to share is a little bit happier, but I just really wanted to share so that, people could have someone to go off of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I just feel like these videos helped me. So I hope this helps somebody else, and I don't know. I guess I'll see you guys soon. Bye.